From the News Channel 5 Network, this is MorningLine.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on MorningLine. I am Nick Barris. It is a Monday. Hope you had a good weekend, and we have a good show on tap for you. I hope you're tuning in right now because you've been following the news over the past week, and you know what we expect later today. It's going to be the very latest developments on the Vanderbilt Rape Case, but today it's not one of these things where we're just interviewing a lawyer outside of the courtroom or talking about the latest development with one of the suspects or the alleged victim here. Today is a very big motions hearing. It's going to be happening over at the Birch Building in Judge Randall Wyatt, or not Wyatt's court, in Judge Watkins Court. I'm sorry, excuse me on that, but Judge Watkins Court. We're going to be covering that live, but for this hour here on MorningLine, we're going to be taking your phone calls and talking about what is going to happen this morning and why I think you'll find it very interesting with our legal analyst here, News Channel 5 legal analyst Nick Leonardo. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning, Nick.
It's nice to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
This is something we've been talking about for a while. There's been a lot of coverage on this, okay, from day one, and a lot outside the courtroom, and a lot of motions that I've done a lot of stories on, back and forth, some of them very strongly worded. If you can, we're going to touch on a lot, and we'll bounce through this and take calls, but what do we expect? Why do you think our viewers who have followed this case will find this hearing interesting this morning?
Well, the first thing that they're going to do is they're probably going to arraign Mr. Vandenberg on this new indictment, and then I believe the defense team has a motion to dismiss the charges.
And, completely.
And that's based upon the fact that some of the evidence that they have received in discovery, or what the state's shown to them, some of the video is just missing. It's plainly missing. It's plainly edited. And so, what do those 13 minutes, those 5 minutes, what do they show? And would it show something favorable for Mr. Vandenberg? So today they're going to be asking that that be dismissed. And I think that will be, something interesting for the viewers to see.
All right, and we're going to go point by point here. But first, real quickly, for those of you perhaps who have not been paying close attention to this, Brandon Vandenberg and 3 other former Vanderbilt football players are all charged with, among other things, rape of a co-ed on campus there in a dormitory last year, all right, last year. And that's the charges. There's others, tampering with evidence. There are allegations that there is a video documentation of what happened to this woman and all of that. Now, we were just talking about them asking to have the case thrown out, the defense arguing that there's editing done on some of the video surveillance that came from the dormitory and all that. Let me ask you this. You're a defense lawyer now, Nick, okay? You've worked, though, on the other side. You've seen both sides of this. I find it hard to believe, and maybe I'm just naive, that prosecutors, Tom Thurman or someone in his office would be say, okay, we've got to provide this discovery to the defense, and we've got all this surveillance video we've collected, and, there's a little clip here that, I don't think we should provide that to them. Let's snip that out. Pretty obvious we're making the edit here, but let's pull that out and just send everything else out to them. Am I naive? I just don't see Tom Thurman or anyone in his office doing that. They're just going to give it to him and go to war.
Well, and I agree. You're absolutely right. I don't think that Tom Thurman or anyone in the Davidson County District Attorney's Office would intentionally withhold evidence. And to the contrary, they're not allowed to do that. They have a duty to provide everything that they have. I think the question is, does this information exist? It's, it really doesn't matter at this point who edited it. I don't think it's the DA's office. They would have a duty to provide that. But maybe the video that they received was already edited. And so the question is, what's the role of that, video in the prosecution?
Now, that may go to something we were talking about before the show, okay, because some of the video in question here, supposedly in this campus dormitory, there are surveillance cameras set up there that show the interested parties in this case coming in, going back, getting off the elevator, the condition, whether they were drunk, and all of that. And I know some of what we believe should be on that video, defense attorneys say they don't see there. Now, they have asked Vanderbilt to get access to some of Vanderbilt's records, and now talk about a who's who of powerful lawyers involved now. Now David Rabin is representing Vanderbilt and trying to quash some kind of request defense attorneys have put in there to say, hey, we want to see all this video.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, a good defense attorney does more than just review the evidence that the state says they're going to use against that particular accused individual. A good defense attorney will also conduct their own investigation.
Right.
And that's what they're doing here. And I believe they've issued subpoenas to Vanderbilt for some kind of information that they may have, or at least to review their records. And in response to that, they have now hired their own lawyer, and I believe that that's David Rabin, who's, he writes textbooks. He's a well-known lawyer, great lawyer, and he's going to step in there today, and I guess if they'll take that up today, and ask that subpoena be quashed or basically done away with. And I don't know if he's going to ask that exactly, or he may ask for more time, or he may want to know what exactly they're looking for. But what's very interesting about this is that there's not a lot of rules in the criminal process about subpoenas and stuff like there would be on the civil side of things. So the judge has got a lot of leeway, and some of this is uncharted territory.
Yeah, and it's like you say too, when you hear this and Vanderbilt hiring, well, what is it that people don't want to be seen, or what are we hiding? And we talk about powerful lawyers. Okay, we all know, the prosecution's office, Tom Thurman, one of the very best prosecutors you're going to find anywhere. We've got the legal team for Brandon Vandenberg, okay, led by Fletcher Long and John Herbison, very well known. You've got David Rabin now for Vanderbilt, and the alleged victim in this case now has former U.S. attorney and very well known and established, respected lawyer Ed Yarborough. And he's even thrown his name into the mix, trying to protect her, even though she's not charged with any crime. And there's some question what kind of witness she's going to be, because we've all heard all along that she was supposedly unconscious when this alleged assault occurred. Well, doesn't remember a thing.
Well, that's what they say, and it's awfully interesting because, I believe Mr. Yarborough, who, like you said, is a fine attorney, but he's asking the court, he wants to intervene in this litigation on behalf of a non-party, which we're talking about a witness, and kind of dictate what can be said and what can't be said. And so that's going to be real interesting to see how the court deals with his request. I think that motion would be better made by Tom Thurman, honestly, because I believe Tom would have, somewhat standing to do that. But I mean, this is a hot button topic. I believe Ed Yarborough just argued this in front of Chancellor Perkins here in Davidson County about discovery and whether or not we can put these victims' names out there. So I believe that Mr. Yarborough is trying to get the right result. The question is the procedural vehicle he's using or how he's getting there, is the judge going to buy it? And I think that's what's going to be entertaining.
All right. Yeah, the big picture for you at home as you're sitting there, and I know some of this is inside pool, and he understands it, some of it goes right over my head, is that there are a lot of complex issues at work here, and it's shaping up not to be a typical rape case. Not that there is necessarily a typical case, but there are so many peripheral things happening here, and you wonder, okay, how is this really going to play out? Is it going to really go to trial? I mean, there's a tentative trial date for August 11th. Okay, we're talking about 2 months from now. I mean, it's...
that's not going to go to trial. I mean, anytime you get any kind of a civil or criminal case, and you get 5 or 6 of the top-notch lawyers in the South, much less the state of Tennessee, you put them together, and they're going to be arguing over, can the judge wear a robe? Can the judge, where can I sit? I don't want my guy sitting here. I don't want my woman sitting here. I don't want. I want the people in the galley spread evenly. They're going to argue over everything, and so they're going to be great arguments because they're great lawyers. And so as a result, I don't see this going forward, and well, next month almost.
Yeah, that quickly anyway. Okay, before we take our first break, let's take a call from Joe. Joe, good morning.
Good morning, Nick.
Hey, Joe.
Just a couple questions for the attorney.
Sure.
First one is, Mr. Vandenberg's got an attorney from California. Can he legally practice in Tennessee? And the second thing is, does it make a difference if the lady was intoxicated or unconscious or whatever for the charge of rape? And the third one is, we've heard a lot about Mr. Vandenberg and all these attorneys he's got and everything. What about the other 3 guys in it? You don't hear anything from them.
Great questions, Joe. Hang tight real quickly. I just want to say you're viewing some exclusive video from Friday that we had. The initial video there you saw, there was a gentleman with a mustache walking next to Brandon Vandenberg, and that is Albert Perez, the California attorney that Joe was referring to, along with John Herbison walking in. There's Albert Perez to Brandon Vandenberg's right, John Herbison in front. So that is his California attorney. He is able to represent Brandon here, or is that one reason they have hired Herbison and Fletcher Long to assist?
So the answer to that question, in short, is that if you're a lawyer in one state and you want to practice in another, or and you have a case in another, let's say, and you're not licensed there, you didn't take that bar exam, then they have this thing called pro hoc vice, which means that you can go down and kind of piggyback off of that in-state lawyer's license. So Mr. Perez is admitted here on a temporary basis, what's known as pro hoc vice, and he is supposed to be under the care and tutelage of Tennessee lawyers while he's practicing here. So he's really practicing upon the license and good standing of Mr. Herbison and Mr. Long. And you have to have permission from a court, but it's usually pretty liberally granted, so long as the lawyers in that state are in good standing.
It is interesting, too, going to his last question. You know, there's others. Brandon Vandenberg's charged, so is Corey Beatty, who I believe is represented by Warwick Robinson, another well-known attorney. I don't know who represents Brandon Banks and Jaborian McKenzie. There are two others who are separate. Beatty and Vandenberg right now are scheduled to be tried together. But it is curious that maybe it's the nature of the lawyers and the strategy they've decided to take, but Vandenberg has been out front. In his case, his lawyer is very aggressive. You've heard next to nothing from attorneys for the other three defendants.
Well, and you know, at any point in time, I mean, Mr. Vandenberg's got, you know, good counsel, and they can get out there and kind of be the guinea pig, if you will, to this prosecution. You know, and if they see something they like as a co-defendant, well, maybe you could join in on one of those motions or maybe employ some of those tactics yourself. So I think right now they're just kind of sitting back and seeing how some of this stuff plays out, and it's obviously playing out pretty big.
Yeah, listen, we've got to take a break. When we come back, we'll follow up on his other question about the alleged victim here, the fact that she may have been unconscious, and also I want to ask you more about, you know, Ed Yarborough's move to say, you know, we cannot be intimidating the victim. We don't want her picture or name released. Here, trust me, folks. We know what she looks like. I have a picture of her. I know what her name is. We don't use that. We police that ourselves. The media does not reveal the name of sexual abuse or sex crime victims. We never do. So I'm not sure what Yarborough's after. No one in the media here is going to release her name or picture. You know, we're just not going to do that. Listen, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll also be joined by Brandon Vandenberg's attorney, Fletcher Long, by phone just to get the basics of what he expects. We'll take more of your phone calls, and keep in mind, right after this program, we'll take you live to the courtroom, Judge Monty Watkins, and that hearing that I think, you know, if you're just not familiar with the case but interested in watching courtroom drama, I think you'll enjoy this one. We'll be back with more right after this.